Hello, Original Soul. Welcome in to this reading. Thanks so much for showing up, being here, and bringing your energy. All right, we'll run through the oracle cards that I pre-pulled. We got 4 that popped out of the crystal deck, and then I took 1 out of my Egyptian deck. So we'll start with those, and then we'll add a few more things to it. See what is up. All right, so garnet. Get into your depth. Meteorite. Connect to your star stuff. And then we've also got kyanite. Deepen your perspective. And turquoise. Speak your truth. All right, so just looking at the colors here, we've got blues, so feeling like the throat chakra is definitely highlighted, especially with turquoise, talking about speaking your truth. And then we've also got sort of these earthy tones with browns and this orange, so that can be your security, stability, your root energy, and then also with the orange, your creativity. So maybe any or all of those might be being impacted right now. Could be feeling a little blocked in some of those areas because out of the Egyptian oracle number 13, restraint or end of conflict. Okay, so right now you may be feeling blocked, but once you move through those blocks, that conflict will be coming to an end. Also, the time during the Egyptian calendar, it mentioned sort of like the last week of the year, right around the winter solstice, so December 21st through the 30th. So I don't know if something has been going on since maybe, last year of that time, or potentially, things will start to unfold, and by the end of this year, maybe whatever is being blocked or restrained is going to be totally different. All right, so that's what we've got so far here. So I'm going to flip these over. We'll add some cards to it here in a minute. But yeah, again, there could just be some disconnection going on, either with your own creativity and your own self. Maybe you feel disconnected even from your surroundings. Something about your perspective possibly needs to shift or change. Or you could have sort of a block in your mindset. And then again, with speak your truth, there could be just some kind of disconnection between your words and actions, or maybe the way you feel and what you're actually saying. All right, let's see here. We'll add spirit animal to it. So let's see what animal friend wants to volunteer. That you may be able to connect to or call on during this time. All right, we'll take Snake since he was kind of slithering out of the deck there. Snake, transformation. You will be shedding old skin and emotions and transforming them into something bigger and better. Change is in the wind, and you are at the center of it all as the catalyst. To smoothen the process, make sure that your intentions are clear and that you move forward with hope. Oh, what a beautiful message from Snake. I love that. So like I was saying, there may be blockages going on. It seems like something that, either needs to be worked through or you're in the process of working through. And Snake is reiterating all of that. There may also need to be some sort of blending, either of your own energies or some sort of coming together. Just noticing in the corner, right, we've got two people on this card, but up in the corner there, it looks like he's carrying 2 cups. So again, some sort of blending, or a coming together. Again, that could be just your own energy. You need to kind of get on the same page inside yourself. Sometimes our masculine and feminine can be a little bit at odds. All right, so some sort of transformation is at hand. Let's pop one out of this Angel Tarot. And then we'll add a little bit of tarot to each of these crystal cards and see what these blocks might be in these different areas, these different categories. All right, Angel Tarot. I saw the sun a couple times in this deck. So we'll see. And there could be sort of a light shining on whatever these issues, blockages, what you might perceive as problems. Maybe you are starting to see things a little bit differently or switch up your perspective. Oh, we got 2 today. Let's see here. Both 6s. We've got a 6-6 coming out, 6 of Swords and 6 of Wands. Number 63, Anaieul, the gentle God, perception of unity. So what was I just talking about? Protects against accidents and heals the sick. So take a good look at that angel. There's one of them. And then 6 of Wands, Seehiah, number 28, God who took evil, longevity, protects against infirmities. All right, so protection against accidents and sickness coming out. And again, both of these with 6s, that can be about balance and harmony. This again is about sort of mental energy and action and desire. So we were talking about maybe those haven't quite been matching with how you've been acting versus how you feel or what you think. Perception of unity. All right. Again, we were just talking about that. So those are the angels for the week. All right, let's see what Archangel Michael wants to offer up, and then we'll get into a couple more tarot cards to add to the reading here. Admit the truth to yourself and act accordingly. Okay. My prayer. I appreciate your support in helping me face my feelings with grace and acceptance so that I can be lovingly honest with myself and others. Thank you, Archangel Michael, for giving me courage and strength. All right, so we've got a unicorn on that card. What else there? Looks like he's holding some sort of bird. I'm not quite sure what kind of bird that is. I don't know why kingfisher came into my mind, but I don't know that that's what that is. And it looks like there's also maybe like some sort of ram or goat in this card as well. All right, so admit the truth to yourself and act accordingly. All right, so some sort of, again, unity, speaking your truth. And we often do lie to ourselves or try to convince ourselves we don't feel a certain way or we don't think something even though we're thinking it. Or we may just block things out altogether and sort of pretend things aren't happening. So starting with you, right? Speak your truth at least to yourself and then let that trickle out from there. Okay, let's see here. Let's add some tarot to it. And I hope you're doing well. I don't know if I remembered to say that, but I'll say it again if I did. Especially if you have been feeling really disconnected or blocked, restrained in some way. Got a restraint like you feel like is coming from your external environment, some other person or a situation, or is that more of a mental block, a mental restraint? Either way, that can be difficult to work through. All right, I'll do one more shuffle. All right, let's see here. So we'll start with garnet. Get into your depth. At the bottom of this card, it talks about using it when you feel like the real you is getting lost, either in the materialistic world or caring more about likes than anything else, whether you're on social media or not. So that could be about people pleasing or just kind of looking for sort of the ego to be appeased and filled. Okay, so let's see what comes out with this. All right, so we've got Seven of Swords, futility. This is where lying and deceit can come in. Also, the church bells are ringing right now. So just kind of highlighting this part of the message. But we've got futility and Five of Cups, disappointment. And then the Queen of Cups. So let's take a look here and see. So yeah, with Seven of Swords, like we were talking about just a little bit ago, maybe you need to speak the truth to yourself. This can be about lying and manipulation. This could be something that you're doing to yourself. Could be with a situation with another person, right? But that's starting to feel really futile. Right? It's not getting you anywhere. It's really just leading to more disappointment. And this could be an internal disappointment, especially if you are the one that maybe is, not being honest, right? That just brings on feelings of shame, of kind of hurting your own self, right? It kind of hurts your soul to do things like that. So the Queen of Cups coming out, right? This is about getting in touch with your emotions and feelings. This is about trusting your intuition, trusting your insight, and allowing your feelings to flow. Yeah, like Snake was talking about too. Right? Transforming other emotions, shedding old skin. What did Archangel Michael say? Yeah, facing your feelings. So that's really what this is about. I mean, so getting more into your depth, getting into the depth of your feelings. Stop lying to yourself. Stop convincing yourself you don't feel the way you feel. It's just bringing in more disappointment. You're disappointing yourself, potentially, in this case. Yeah, so really facing your feelings, allowing those to come to the surface, tying right in there with what Archangel Michael is mentioning. Okay. Let's add a few to meteorite. Connect to your star stuff. So this is where I was saying you could feel even disconnected with your environment. Oh my gosh, that's quite a few, but we'll see what they are. Maybe you feel like you come from somewhere else, or you belong somewhere else, or you might look up at the sky, or just out, into the universe and just dream, of something different, maybe something better. So again, that could be feeling a little disconnected from your space here. Let's see what we've got here. Okay, quite a few cards. We'll start with these first two, Knight of Wands and the Chariot. Both of these in this imagery look kind of fiery. They are down to business and serious. So this could be about connecting more to your passion. Maybe you've been feeling really blocked. Maybe you haven't been dreaming lately, and not necessarily just like dreaming at nighttime. Although if you do have some vivid or active dreams, it might be good to journal or write about those things. All right, but you could be just feeling blocked in sort of moving forward and following your passions, following, your dreams or your vision for yourself or your future. So maybe you do have some sort of, creative idea that you haven't really gone after, or that you haven't really connected to. But the Chariot is moving forward with confidence, faith, and success. Right here, he's all armored up and super protected. So, your dreams are protected. Those ideas that you connect to and that come up in your awareness, right? Those are things worth tracking down, worth following, worth taking that path, right? So know that that is protected, right? But not really keeping too hard of a shell for yourself where you don't even let yourself do things. Or again, like with this truth and kind of connecting to your emotions and speaking your truth and those sorts of things, right? If you're blocking yourself in that way, it can be really hard to move forward with this fiery passion. And that's where we come up with this Nine of Swords. On this card, it says cruelty, right? So if you're not allowing yourself to go down the road you really feel drawn to go down, right? That's where you might be being cruel to yourself. You're denying yourself something that your soul is looking to experience. All right, and then we've also got Ace of Swords and the Strength card, or in this deck, it's the Lust card. All right, so you could be holding yourself back, again, from something related to your sacral chakra, which is about creativity, it's about sex, it's about partnership, it's about emotions. A lot of these things we've been feeling about. You know, I had noticed that this really looked to me like the Two of Cups. So as I was talking about unity, I'd related it more to yourself, but that could be with another person, right? Maybe there's another person that you really are kind of lusting after or desire, and you haven't been willing to admit that truth. You haven't been willing to say anything about it or go down that road, right? And that's creating a block. So taking off some of that hard exterior where emotions have been blocked, desires have been blocked, and allowing yourself to connect to your star stuff, connect to your vision, connect to your dream, whether that's a project, a person, an idea. So you may be involved with writing or something along those lines, and you may resonate with starseed. So maybe you are a starseed. I feel like all of us came from the stars. I don't know. What do you think about that? All right. Let's see here. We'll move on to kyanite, deepen your perspective. Kyanite is also handy to use during meditation. So meditation may be helpful to you right now if that is something you already do. Maybe you try a different type of meditation, or maybe you increase the time that you meditate or something like that. If it's not something that you do, maybe you just try it for 5 minutes, right? It's okay if your mind doesn't go blank and you just notice kind of what thoughts are coming in, or maybe how racing your mind is. It's just a good activity to start to become aware of how you operate and where you may need to settle a little bit more. All right, but let's see what comes out here with kyanite, deepen your perspective. All right, so Six of Wands, victory came out. We've got double Six of Wands because that is Seehiah, the angel that also came out, which I mentioned can be about desires and action and finding more harmony in that way. So we've got victory out here with deepen your perspective. You know, I'm seeing this kind of two different ways right now. One of them may be like if you only care about being victorious or winning, especially with restraint or end of conflict, you could be in some sort of conflict, again, not just internal, but maybe with someone else. Maybe you're in a legal situation, or, you know, going through a divorce, or having an issue with a family member or a friend, or whatever this may be, even your, you know, your boss or your work. Whatever category falls in or makes sense for you, right? Just notice if your only focus is winning, if your only focus is coming out on top, you know, that's where you might be blocking yourself. Kind of remembering we are all connected. And so the things that you do or the way you act towards other people, right? That's also something that will just come back to you, or you're kind of mirroring even sometimes the way you feel about yourself. And then the other thing that's coming through is basically the exact opposite of that. So, for some of you, maybe you don't feel, like you will come out on top, or like you will be victorious, or that you can be successful. There could be some negative self-talk, or just a perspective about yourself where somewhere in there you don't feel like you deserve success, or you don't deserve victory in whatever you're setting out to do, right? And that may be tying into the blockage then of maybe not pursuing, a project or an idea or a partner or whatever that may be. So just taking a good look at where you maybe fall in line with that. And then out with that as well came 8 of Cups. On this card it says indolence. Looks a little murky on this card. But it did come out in reverse. All right, and I am seeing the 2 of Cups here, love. All right, so that could be something where you have pushed down, again, this is a repeating message through this reading, but you've pushed down your feelings, you've pushed down your emotions. Maybe you've even been, on the kind of camp that, feelings are bad, empathy is bad, emotions, are not a good thing to rely on, and kind of focusing more on logic or something like that. All right, so definitely shifting your perspective and allowing feelings to flow and allowing love to come in. Depending on what you've been through in the past, that could be something that you've pushed away, whether that's self-love or accepting love from other people, or maybe even being willing to share or express love. Right? That's where some of that protection or that hard exterior that I mentioned has come through. And maybe that's something that you feel, again, like you don't deserve or that you can't have. So really allowing yourself, again, to let your feelings come to the surface. Because once you acknowledge those and kind of move in directions where you realize like your feelings are signals. This is your body and your soul telling you something, right? So the more you ignore that, you're ignoring your soul and kind of being more in an ego state. So deepening your perspective, especially with yourself, or again, if you're in a situation that does have conflict, right? Maybe understanding your own motives is a good way to look at it, and just trying to understand why you're doing what you're doing, or why those feelings might be coming up, or why you're not willing to let those come up. Okay. All right, and then we'll move on to turquoise. Speak your truth. Again, there could be some restraint or even conflict going on with, as we talked about, maybe honesty, whether that's with yourself or with others in a situation. Yeah, we've got worry and sorrow that have both come out here. So definitely picking up a lot of blue in this 5 of Pentacles card. All right, that you're worried about speaking your truth. You're worried about saying something. You might be even worried about admitting something to yourself, right? But this is definitely about communication. I believe this is associated with Mercury, maybe. So yeah, taking out that worry and fear, and also the lack that you may feel internally, right? Not feeling good enough. Again, with that shame and self-doubt and some of those things we already talked about that might be preventing you from speaking and moving forward, because there is some sort of interference. We've got a lot of sort of murky looking cards here, right? Where the choices you have been making have possibly been blocking you. Or maybe you haven't been doing or saying anything that you really know you need to. And that really is just creating sort of I don't know, a gunky environment internally. But then we've also got Three of Swords out, which is sorrow. So as I mentioned, you know, depending on what you've been through in the past, this could definitely have to do with a blockage. Also in just the expression of love or feeling like you are able to give or receive love in some sort of way. But once you're able to move past these blockages, especially with your ability to communicate or speak, being more honest and truthful in that way, right? That's where healing will start to take place. And that will kind of start to flip that sorrow upside down. In this imagery, just really noticing that one sword right there in the middle that's standing out to me a lot. And the Ace of Swords is, which we do have out here, is the sword of truth, is about honesty. It is an opportunity. So you have the opportunity and the capability to do this. Right? To be more honest, to be more truthful, to say what you need to say, especially if you are feeling, what did I say, kind of gunky inside, which isn't funny, of course. Just that word for some reason is making me giggle a little bit. But that's where things can really start to bloom. A big weight may be lifted off your shoulders. Right? So allowing yourself to get in touch, again, with your feelings, with your desires, with your needs, with your wants, and with love energy. That's really, really important. And that's what's going to allow you to start to transform and shift. Okay. Let's come up with an affirmation that might be helpful to work with for the week. I'm thinking, I am connected. What do you think about that? You are connected. All right, so what can you do this week to feel more connected? First and foremost, with yourself, with your feelings, with your heart space, with whatever those creative ideas might be, or with whatever this unity that needs to be brought in is. Right, so feeling more connected. And then acting from that place of connection. Maybe that means speaking some sort of truth. Maybe that does shift your perspective a little bit. Maybe you can start to see things a little bit differently. But really focusing on connection. Again, connection to your feelings, connection to your body, connection to your desires, which oftentimes is your soul speaking to you. Right? Noticing the difference. Maybe connecting to your motives and seeing where ego may be playing a bigger part than maybe it should. Yeah, and connecting to that harmony energy so you can move out of restraint, move past conflict, and start to feel lighter and brighter and kind of embracing more of love energy. Okay. So that is what we've got here for this reading. We are connected. I hope there's something here for you today. And until next time, peace.